Section 1. The Iron Delusion, June 21, 1941. 300 hours. The forests bordering the Bugbug River, German-occupied Poland. The air is thick, humid, and heavy with the smell of pine resin, diesel exhaust, and the collective, anxious sweat of 3 million men. Not a bird sings. The only sounds are the metallic tink, tink of cooling engines, the muffled clatter of ammunition crates, and the low, tense murmur of soldiers who know they are standing on the precipice of history. Oberleutnant Kurt Richter, a company commander in the 18th Panzer Division, leans against the warm steel of his Panzerkampfwagen T-34. Aches. His throat is dry. He checks his watch, the glowing radium hands barely visible in the oppressive gloom. All around him, hidden beneath camouflage netting and the dense forest canopy, is the iron heart of Panzergruppe 2. This is the armored fist of the Wehrmacht, and it is commanded by the man who literally wrote the book on tank warfare, Generaloberst Heinz Guderian. Richter's crew is inside the cramped fighting compartment, attempting a fitful, adrenaline-laced sleep. He looks at his tank. It is, he believes, the finest fighting machine in the world. Its 50mm KUK 38 Elzen 42 gun had proven itself in France. It, combined with flawless radio coordination and tactical supremacy, had shattered the heavier French Char B1s and British Matildas. They hadn't just defeated the Allies, they had humiliated them. He, like all his comrades, feels an unshakable, almost religious confidence. They are the Darf Wehrmacht. They are the masters of Blitzkrieg, the conquerors of Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. They are, quite simply, an unstoppable force. And tomorrow, at Zo 3:35, they will unleash that force upon the Soviet Union. Their intelligence reports, the work of the Zad Fremd Heer Ost, of foreign armies east, painted a picture of a primitive, poorly led, and pathetic opponent. The Red Army was a joke, a decapitated giant still reeling from Stalin's brutal officer purges. Their equipment, obsolete. Rubbish. Richter and his men had passed around the grainy intelligence photographs and laughed. They saw the Soviet tanks, the tiny, two-man T-26, flimsy as tin cans, with armor that a heavy machine gun could trouble. They saw the BT-7, fast tanks, which looked like they would rattle themselves to pieces if they hit a ditch too hard. Most were clumsy copies of Western designs from a decade prior. Their own anti-tank gun crews, manning the little 37mm P-36s, were already joking. They called their gun the Heeresanklopfgurt, the army's door knocker. They were certain it would be more than enough to punch through anything the Soviets could field. Heinz Guderian himself had assured his commanders that the Soviet tank corps was a disorganized rabble, lacking in radios, tactical doctrine, and competent leadership. He famously predicted he would be in Moscow in 8 weeks. 10, at the outside. The entire campaign Operation Barbarossa would be a mopping up operation compared to the grueling fight against the French and the British Expeditionary Force. Richter's Panzer car was the designated tank killer. Beside it, the Panzer IV, with its short, barreled 75mm gun, was the infantry support breakthrough tank designed to lob high, explosive shells into bunkers and machine gun nests. The lighter Panzer Heers and captured Czech 30 A8 Tess filled out the numbers. It was a perfect, balanced, victorious orchestra of steel. Richter pats the cold turret. Tomorrow, we give Ivan a taste of Blitzkrieg. He mutters to his reflection in the dark vision slit. He believes it. Every single man in the 3 million strong invasion force believes it. The hours crawl by. Then, through 3:15, June 27, 1941, the world explodes. A rolling thunder, so vast and deep it feels geological, erupts along a 1,000-mile front. The German artillery barrage, the largest in the history of warfare, begins its symphony of destruction. Estart engines. Richter's own voice sounds strange, thin against the cataclysmic din. The Maybach V12 engine behind him coughs, belches smoke, and then roars to life, vibrating the entire 20-ton machine. Beside him, and behind, hundreds of other Panzers ignite. The forest floor trembles. Through the trees, he sees the flashes of the guns, like a relentless, made lightning storm. Faroguard. They lurch ahead, crashing through the undergrowth, their headlights cutting narrow beams into the pre-dawn mist and smoke. They clatter over the pontoon bridges laid by combat engineers, and then they are on Soviet soil. The air stinks of cordite, churned earth, and burning pine. The first hours are pure, unadulterated chaos. The Soviet border troops are caught completely, utterly, by surprise. Richter's 15M gun barks, sending a high, explosive shell into a wooden watchtower, which simply disintegrates. His whole machine gun chatters, cutting down green, uniformed soldiers running in a panic, some still in their underclothes. For the first day, the first week, it is exactly as they predicted. It is a slaughter. The Panzer divisions slice through the Red Army like a scalpel through canvas. They encircle hundreds of thousands of stunned, leaderless Soviet troops in vast pockets. The T-26 and BT sons they encounter either brew up in greasy black smoke at the first hit, or are simply abandoned by their crews. Guderian's columns race eastward. By June 28th, they are closing the trap around Minsk. The confidence of Richter and his men swells into pure, unadulterated arrogance. This isn't a war, it's a victory parade. It is near the small Lithuanian city of Rysenyi, on June 23rd, that the parade first hits a roadblock. It is not Richter, but a unit from Panzergruppe 4 to the north. A frantic radio message comes in from the 6th Panzer Division. It is disjointed, confused. They've met something. They are in combat with Soviet elements, but their shots are having no effect. Then, 2 days later, Richter's own column, pressing hard toward the Dnieper River, is flagged down by a Hauptmann's captain from a reconnaissance unit. The man's face is pale, his uniform black with soot, his eyes wide. "Hold your column," the captain shouts over the idling engines. "What is it, Hauptmann?" "A minefield, dug in anti-tank guns." Richter asks, annoyed at the delay. "No," the captain says, shaking his head. "Tanks, we engaged them. We lost 3 paquet 36. The shells, they just bounced off." A Richter frowns. Bounced off? What was KV-1? They had heard vague rumors of a heavy Soviet tank, but assumed it was rare, a clumsy propaganda piece. "No, not a KV," the captain says, his voice cracking. I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't big, not like a KV, but it was fast. And the armor, Gott in Himmel. It was sloped. Everything was sloped. Our shells just slid off. Like rain. The captain points back down the dirt track. Then it fired. It hit one of our Panzer Ts from 800 meters. The turret. It just blew clean off. A cold stillness settles over Richter. He looks past the captain down the smoke-hazed road. The arrogance that had fueled him for days is suddenly pricked by a single, sharp needle of doubt. He peers into his binoculars, and that's when he sees it. A low, sleek, dark green shape, utterly alien in its design, emerging from the woods. It doesn't look like a tank. It looks like a predator. Type. Continue. To generate the next sections. The report from Lieutenant Koshkin's decimated company, or what was left of it, was not just a report. It was an alarm bell, ringing in the highest levels of the Stavka, Soviet High Command, and echoing through the design bureaus back in Tankograd. The laughter had stopped. The hunter had become the prey. Suddenly, Soviet tank crews, the A-tankists, were being taught a new, terrifying-sounding word, Tiger. They were given crude silhouettes, like those of a monster in a fairy tale, and told one thing. Do not engage from the front. This was a bitter pill. These were men who had been told and had believed that they piloted the finest tank in the world. Now, they were being told to run, not run. A swarm. In the desperate, freezing debriefing rooms, new tactics were being hammered out. "Comrades," a political commissar, his face grim, would say, The fascists have built a beast. It is slow. It is heavy. It is a clumsy, capitalist monstrosity. It can kill one of us. It cannot kill all of us. The new doctrine was one of sacrificial courage. The T-34s, with their superior speed and agility, were ordered to use wolf pack tactics. One T-34 would charge, eating the shell, as the crews called it, deliberately drawing the Tiger's fire. As the Tiger's crew, with its slow, methodical German discipline, reloaded its massive 88mm shell, a process that took vital seconds, 3 or 4 other T-34s would scream in from the flanks and the rear. They called it carousel combat. Get the Tiger to turn its turret, then get behind it. The crews knew what this meant. The bait tank was a death sentence, but it was a necessary one. They had to get inside 800 meters, inside 500, to a range where their 76mm guns could maybe, with a perfectly placed shot, jam the turret ring, or hit the engine compartment, or break a track. The slogan of the tankists changed. It was no longer, for the motherland. It was, get on its ass. The cost was astronomical. In the preliminary battles that would lead up to the climactic clash at Kursk, the kill ratios were horrifying. 4, 5, sometimes 10 T-34s-76 were being burned to kill a single Tiger. The Germans, with their superior optics and devastating guns, were scything down the T-34s like wheat. The reports reaching Stalin were bloody. The T-34, the miracle weapon of 1941, was now in the same position as Richter's Panzer had been. It was obsolete. In early 1943, a group of furious, battle-hardened tank commanders were pulled from the front and brought directly to GKO, the State Defense Committee. They stood before the designers, the engineers, and the marshals. Your tank is a coffin, one T-34 battalion commander, a man with a scowled face and dead eyes, shouted, slamming his fist on a Model T-34. My crews, they know they are driving to their graves. The 76mm, it is a Paschuta. It cannot scratch the new German paint. The message was clear. The T-34's hull, its suspension, its engine, its body, was still perfect. It was the fist that was now too small. It needed a new hammer. The designers, already under pressure, were given a simple, impossible order. They needed to mount a gun on the T-34 that could kill a Tiger. The problem was, all of the Soviet guns that could do the job, like the 85mm anti-aircraft gun, had a breech that was far too large to fit inside the T-34's cramped, 2-man turret. It couldn't be done. Not without a new turret. And so the arms race took its final, critical turn. While the Germans were building their brand new, complex, and over-engineered Panthers and Tigers, the Soviets did something brilliantly simple. They took the turret from a different tank program, the experimental T-43, which had a larger turret ring, and found a way to mount it onto their existing, mass-produced T-34 hull. It was a hybrid, a stopgap, a bodge job born of pure desperation. Into this new, larger, 3-man turret, they crammed their 85mm gun. The result was the T-34 885. It was the old, reliable, mass-producible T-34. Given the hammer it so desperately needed. The first prototypes rolled out just in time, because the Germans were planning something. A massive pincer movement. A final attempt to seize the initiative on the Eastern Front. They were gathering all their new, invincible monsters, the Tigers and the new medium tank, the Panther, for one cataclysmic battle. It would take place near a small, quiet railway town, a town called Kursk. July 5, 1943, 04:30, the steppe south of Kursk. Not with light, but with smoke. The air is an unbreathable, sulphurous fog from the artillery barrage. Richter's Panther, buttoned up, moves forward on a 1-kilometer front with 100 other tanks. The ground, already churned by the barrage, is a lunar landscape of craters and burning grass. Through the narrow, misted slit of his periscope, Richter scans the ridge ahead, the Soviet line. He feels a knot of ice in his stomach, a ghost of the old fear, but it's overpowered by the deep, 700 horsepower thrum of the Maybach engine beneath his feet. Gunner, he says, his voice a calm, steady transmission into the 18-year-old's headphones. Class. Scan. 1000 to 1500 meters. Anything that looks like a terror. Ajah. Hopman. The boy's voice squeaks. High with adrenaline. They crawl over a rise, and there it is, the Soviet front. It's not a thin line, it's a world of trenches, minefields, and interlocking anti-tank gun nests. And in hold-down pits, almost invisible below, familiar silhouettes. Contact. Klaus screams, his voice cracking. 11 o'clock, 400 meters. Calm. Richter says, his heart hammering. He brings his own superior Zeiss optics onto the target. It's a T-34 76 dug in, its long gun pointed their way. I see it. A Panzer granate 30 Naiad. Target acquired. Fire when ready. Firing. The Panther rocks back. The 75 Maracay 422 unleashing its high-velocity shell with a deafening, metallic CRSCK that sounds completely different from the old Panzer's popper. The sound itself is a weapon. Richter and Klaus watch the thin, green tracer lines streak across the battlefield in a flat, perfect line. It seems to take an eternity. Then, a bright, instantaneous flash on the T-34's glacis plate. A fraction of a second later, the T-34 detonates. It is not the fire of a burning engine. It is a catastrophic ammunition explosion. The turret, just like his friends on the Panzer IV 2 years ago, is ripped from its mounting and blasted 30 feet into the air. Got him Himmel. Klaus whispers, his eye still pressed to the sight. It's gone. Our target. Ritter says, his voice cold, tasting the dialect. 600 meters, 10 o'clock. I see it. Firing. 3 RACK. Another flash, another T-34 bruise up, black smoke pouring from its hatches. Another 100 meters. He's moving. CRACK. The shell hits the moving T-34, punching through its side armor as if it were cardboard. The tank lurches, stops, and begins to burn. It's like the training range, hot man. Klaus laughs, a high-pitched, hysterical sound. Richter looks across the battlefield. It is a slaughter. The Panthers and Tigers are invincible. They are sitting at ranges the Soviets cannot dream of matching, and are systematically, coolly, executing the T-34 one by one. The FT-34 Streck is dead. It is being paid back with interest. He can see the Soviet tanks in a blind panic, breaking cover and charging forward, charging into a wall of 80 AM and high-velocity 75 DM shells. It is a massacre. He feels a surge of pure, violent vindication. This is Inks. We've done it. We've won. And then his Panther lurches. A horrible, high-pitched, screaming sound, like metal teeth being ground to powder, erupts from the rear of the tank. A red warning light flashes on the driver's console. Hop man. The driver shouts, his voice panicked. The transmission, it's overheating. I'm losing power. Keep it moving. Richter snarls. Don't you dare stop. Get us to that ridge. The tank shudders, the engine screaming in protest. But the track's slow. The machine, so perfect, so deadly, is suddenly sluggish, choking. Richter scans his company. To his left, another Panther, Lieutenant Schmitz, has stopped. It is not hit. It is not burning. It is just sitting there dead in the water as the battle moves past it. Dark, oily smoke is pouring, not from a shell hole, but from its own engine vents. Richter. His radio crackles. It's his battalion commander. Report. Why is half your company stalled? I have 2. No, 3 Panthers broken down in Sector B. What is going on? The awful, sickening realization dawns on Richter. The new tanks, they are fragiler. They were rushed from the factories, their new, complex transmissions and final drives not properly tested. They are marvels of engineering, but they are also mechanical nightmares. The Panther shudders one last, violent time, and the engine cuts out. The silence is sudden, horrifying. They are now a 45-ton, immobile steel pillbox. Driver, get it started. Richter screams. It's dead. Hot man. The final drive is, I think it's seized. Richter stares through his periscope. The glorious advance is continuing without them. And now, out of the smoke, a pack of surviving T-34s, seeing his stalled tank, has found their courage. They are ignoring the other Panthers. They are swerving. They are coming for him. The perfect weapon, the answer to all his fears, had betrayed him. The reports do not stop. What Oberleutnant Richter experienced on that dirt road is not an isolated incident. It is a virus. It is spreading across the entire 800-mile front, from Panzergruppe 4 in the north to Panzergruppe 1 in the south. The frantic radio calls flood the command net. They are all the same. Engaged new tank type. Unknown designation. 37 ineffective. Repeat, all 3 7mm rounds are ricocheting. 50mm shells are bouncing off the glacis plate. Heavy losses. Requesting immediate Stuka support. At the headquarters of Panzergruppe 2. And Generaloberst Heinz Guderian slams his fist on the map table. He is a man of blistering energy and iron certainty, the father of the Panzerwaffe. He does not believe in invincible weapons, only in failed tactics or, worse, front-line hysteria. Cowardice. He snarls to his chief of staff. They are seeing ghosts. They have forgotten how to fight. They are so used to the easy victories in France that the first sign of real resistance sends them running. He stabs a finger at the map, at the deep, blue, penciled arrows thrusting towards Smolensk and Kiev. This is what happens when you hesitate. Tell them to stop complaining, bypass these wonder weapons, and keep advancing. Speed is everything. But the reports are no longer just from panicked Oberleutnants. They are coming from hardened Oberstan, colonels, and from his most trusted division commanders. They are reporting that their K-36 anti-tank guns are being systematically overrun. The gun crews, once the cocky door knockers, are now found dead at their stations, having fired dozens of rounds, all of which lie scattered like harmless pebbles around the tracks of the Soviet tanks that crushed them. Panzer Uro and Ivy crews are reporting a chilling new reality. To have any chance of killing a T-34, they must close to suicidal ranges, less than 200 meters, and hope for a lucky shot at the rear or the turret ring. The T-34, meanwhile, can kill them from 500 meters away with its monstrous 76.2 mm gun. It is not a battle, it is, as one commander radios, target practice. The arrogance of the first week of Barbarossa evaporates, replaced by a cold, sickening dread. The Wehrmacht's entire anti-tank doctrine, the very foundation of its blitzkrieg, is now obsolete. By the second week of July, Guderian can no longer deny the evidence. The advance has slowed. The victory parade has become a grinding, bloody slog. He demands answers. He orders his own weapons engineers, who had assured him of German superiority, to the front. In a muddy field near Orsha, a special commission, sent direct from Berlin, finally gets to see its buggyman. The German engineers, designers and generals, men in crisp, clean uniforms, stand in a silent circle around a captured T-34. It is not even one of the later, cleaner models. It is a rough, crude beast, its armor plates hastily welded, with visible gaps and slag. An officer from the procurement office scoffs. This is what they are afraid of. It looks like it was built in a shipyard. It's primitive. An old engineer, a veteran of World War I, ignores him. He walks to the front of the tank, his boots sinking in the mud. He doesn't look at the crude welds. He looks at the A-angle. He pulls a protractor from his leather case. He places it on the front glacis plate. He straightens up, his face pale. What is it? A general asks impatiently. 60 degrees, the engineer says, his voice a low whisper. The plate is only 45 millimeters thick, but at 60 degrees. Got him Himmel. But he does a quick calculation on a notepad. The effective armor thickness. It is 90 millimeters. A full 90. A stunned silence falls over the commission. The general pales. 90 millimeters. Their most powerful tank killer, the 50mm gun on Richter's Panzer Su-2, could only penetrate 60mm at 500 meters. The door knocker, 37mm, couldn't penetrate 90mm if it was pressed directly against the hull. It's impossible, the general stammers. They can't have. But they have, the engineer says, his voice flat. He walks to the side, pointing at the massive road wheels. And this. It is the Christie suspension. An American design. They have perfected it. That is why it is so fast, why it flows across the steppe. He then points to the long, thick barrel of the 76.2 mm gun. And this, 34. It is a high-velocity field gun, adapted for a tank. It fires high explosive. It fires armor-piercing. It can kill our Panzers from a kilometer away. We have nothing like this. The men from Berlin stand there, defeated. The tank in front of them is not just a tank. It is a revelation. It is the single-handed invalidation of their entire military-industrial complex. It is simple, is crude, it is mass-producible. And it is, in every single way that matters, a generation ahead of anything they have. Guderian, upon receiving the report, writes a now famous memorandum to High Command. He states that until this moment, the F-Panzerwaffe had enjoyed tank superiority. Now, he writes, the situation is dangerously reversed. The tank crisis has begun. Germany's greatest armored commander has just admitted, in writing, that his unstoppable Panzers are outclassed. The race for Moscow is over. The race for survival has just begun.